they grow up, their needs changes. So when we have purchased certain things, it will not last for longer period of time. We will require something new. Third reason why the wants are unlimited is that if we satisfy one want, there are other wants which we must satisfy in order to take advantage of that particular product. For example, if I have purchased a car, now my expenses or my wants doesn't stop at purchasing the car. With purchase of car, I need to make expenses on petrol. Second, after some time or on regular basis, I need to pay for services. I need to pay for maintenance. After 5, 10, 15 years or after some kilometers, when the rubber of my tire wears out, at that time I need to change tires also. If some repairs are needs to be done, I have to make expenses on repairs also. So it is because of these three reasons our wants are unlimited. Now, if wants are unlimited and resources are also unlimited, if we all had 2 3 trees which grows money on them, then we might not be facing problems. But that is not so. We all have limited amount of resources. So the second point or second foundation stone of Professor Lionel Robbins' definition says that limited means your or scarce means. So the means with which we have to satisfy our wants are limited. The salary which we are earning, the profit which we are making, or from any other sources, whatever income we are having, that income is limited. So what we have to do? We have to allocate that limited amount of money to satisfy our unlimited wants. And we are faced with a problem of decision making. We are faced with a problem of choice making. So we have to make a choice. Now, on what basis the choice would be made? When we have unlimited wants and we have limited resources, how we would try to satisfy our wants? The basis on which the wants would be satisfied is urgency. Urgent wants would be satisfied first. So if your parents are faced with a problem of purchasing a new car or paying for your fees, then definitely they have made their choice that they will go for paying your fees rather than purchasing or maintaining car or purchasing two-wheeler or purchasing something new, because paying fees is much more urgent than purchasing car or spending money on any other thing. So limited or scarce resources gives rise to problem of choice. Now this problem of choice is made much more complex by the third foundation stone, which says that the resources can be put to alternative uses. For example, if we have a log of wood, if we have a piece of wood, a big piece of wood rather, so out of that piece of wood we can either make furniture, we can make door, we can make chairs, we can make table, we can make window. So many things can be made out of that log of wood. So log of wood is scarce, as well as it can be put to so many uses. So our problem of choice becomes much more complex. So these are the three foundation stones of Professor Lionel Robbins' definition: unlimited wants, limited or scarce means, and alternative uses of resources. If all the three are present at the same time, then and then we can say that there is an economic problem. And whenever I refer to economic problem, that means problem of choice. If you have to define economics in one sentence, if somebody asks you what is economics, define in just one sentence, then you can say economics is a science of choice. That is the simplest definition and the definition which covers most of the economics. And that is the reason that Lionel Robbins' definition is by far considered as one of the mostly used, one of the profound definitions given so far in the economics. But since He has also not given the perfect definition of economics. His definition also had some flaws. But before going to the flaws, we will see on what parameters his definition was superior. Superior to the definitions given by Adam Smith and Professor Alfred Marshall. So, his definition on one way was superior, that his definition was scientific definition. Till now, economists were in confusion whether economics is a science or whether it is art. But by giving this definition, Professor Lionel Robbins proved that economics is a science. What does science do? Science establishes cause and effect relationship. If something has happened, what are the reasons behind it? In his definition, Lionel Robbins has said that economics is a science of choice. People are faced with problem of choice, but the reason why they are faced with problem of choice are unlimited wants, limited resources, and alternative uses of resources. So he has established that cause and effect relationship, and that is why we can say that his definition was superior. He was able to prove that economics is a science, it's a pure science. Second, he widened the scope of economics. He did not go into the detailings of whether we have to consider people who live in society or whether people do not live in society, or he also did not go into classifying them as whether they are material goods or whether they are services. He just says, if we are faced with problem of choice in using resources, then we are faced with economic problem. So his definition was simple but effective, and he covered so many aspects of economics which were not covered by Adam Smith and Alfred Marshall. That's why his definition is much more superior. Third, he says about the neutrality of end, whether some activity gives rise to welfare or it doesn't give rise to welfare. So welfare doesn't matter. If a person is faced with problem of choice, then we can say that economics is there. That activity is economic activity. That activity is part of study of economics. So by giving neutrality of ends, or by giving his definition, he was not concerned whether the activity which is economic activity, whether it gives rise to welfare or it doesn't give rise to welfare. So we have seen how superior his definition was there, but I earlier mentioned that his definition was not perfect. There were flaws in his definition. So we will now look that what were the criticisms provided by other economists into his definition. So first and foremost is he lacked ethical significance. Ethical significance means economists believe that it is the work of economist to see that something good happens to people. If something bad is happening, then we have to find out the reason and we need to try to remove these reasons. We don't just have to sit there and look. So if somebody is consuming tobacco, if somebody is committing suicide, then at that time, if we follow Lionel Robbins' definition, we would just sit there and we would watch that person committing suicide, and we would just wonder why he would have committed suicide. But the economists said that that is not what economics is. We have to look into why he committed suicide and we have to take actions so that other people do not commit suicide for the same reason. So it is the job of an economist to make things better. This ethical concept was totally ignored by Professor Lionel Robbins. The second flaw is that he ignored theory of income and employment. How income is generated, how employment is provided to people. So this is one of the important part of modern economics. It is part of macroeconomics, but one of the most important part which decides the fate of any country, which decides the standard of living of people residing in a country, and that important part was totally ignored. Now, if we look into the third criticism of his definition is he doesn't talk about growth and development of an economy. He just talks about scarcity of resources. He just talks about the allocation of resources, but he doesn't talk anything about growth and development of a country. It is always an objective of a country to make lives of people better, to increase the national income, to increase per capita income. These growth and development related concepts are totally ignored in the definition given by Professor Lionel Robbins. And lastly, he ignores the problems arising out of plenty. He has considered in his definition that scarcity leads to economic problem. But in economics, there are some problems which are created by plenty. When we have things more than what we require, for example, one of the problem is population. There are so many problems which are being created by plenty of people. India is facing such a problem. We have plenty of people, plenty of population. So, what we have to do about this increasing population? That nothing has been said about that problem by Professor Lionel Robbins. Second problem, unemployment. We have plenty of people. We have less number of jobs and plenty of people who are available, who are ready. If we see that if there is one examination, there are 5, 10, 1500 vacancies, there are around thousands of people who are submitting their forms, who are giving so many examinations, who appear for interview for some jobs. So problem of unemployment also arises out of plenty of people. People more, or employable people, number of employable people more than the number of jobs available. And Lionel Robbins doesn't talk anything about this particular problem or problems arising out of plenty. That problems arising out of plenty is also one of the important parts which we consider when we study economics. After Lionel Robbins, one more economist came. His definition is also considered much more. Now we'll see who that economist is. His name is Paul Samuelson. He was an American economist. He wrote 2 books on economics. First was Foundations of Economic Analysis, and second, Economics and Introductory Analysis. So in his books, he tried to define economics. He was a smart person. He has studied the definitions given by earlier economists. He knew what were the problems, what were the criticisms given by other economists into their problems. So he tried to make a definition by combining all the definitions given so far, as well as tried to remove the criticisms, tried to remove the flaws which were there into the earlier definitions. And his main focus was growth and development of resources, growth and development of a nation. That is why his definition is also known as growth oriented definition. Now we will see his definition. Yes, his definition is somewhat lengthy, but his definition is comprehensive. It includes most of the economics, and so far his definition has not been criticized. That doesn't mean that his definition is perfect, but so far his definition is a nearly complete definition. Not perfect, but nearly complete. It includes most of the economics. Let us see what his definition says. According to him, economics is the study of how people and society choose, with or without the use of money, to employ scarce productive resources which could have alternative uses, to produce various commodities over time and distribute them for consumption now and in future among various peoples and groups of society. So, by considering the scarce resources, he has taken into account the scarcity definition. Also, by considering people and society, he has also considered that our definition is related with people. So, it includes study of men, as well as he has included that consumption now and in future. So he has considered present as well as future into his definition. So his definition is somewhat a definition which includes so many things, which includes so many concepts of economics. It includes scarcity, it includes welfare of people, it includes study of man, it includes study of people living in society, and also it includes present generation as well as future generation. So his definition is by far considered one of the complete definitions of economics, not one of the complete, but a nearly complete definition, a definition which comprehends most of the economics. Now his definition had some good features. Now we will look into the main features of Samuelson's definition. First, it deals with scarce resources. I have already discussed that he has considered that resources with people are scarce and they have to make choices about how to use these scarce resources. So ultimately he deals with scarce resources. Second point, efficient allocation of resources. He believes that people have scarce resources, but they always try to have efficient allocation of resources. Now what do we mean by efficient allocation of resources? Efficient allocation means we have minimum of wastage. We try to have minimum of wastage and we want to have maximum of benefit out of our resources. That is considered as efficient allocation of resources. We want to get maximum out of our resources. Third, his definition is growth oriented. He not only considers present situation, he is also worried about future, how we allocate our resources in present as well as what will be left for the future generation. So his definition is futuristic as well as his definition is growth oriented also. Next, his definition is futuristic. I have already said that he doesn't only consider the present but he also considers future. One of the important concept which is discussed nowadays in management as well as in economics is sustainable development. If you have some idea about economics, you must have studied sustainable development in 11th and 12th. In 11th and 12th economics